Hello and welcome to a very special edition of The Print Soft Cover with me. This is Khadija Khan from New Delhi, and today I'm in conversation with award-winning lawyer and author Manasi Chaudhari. Manasi is also the founder of Pink Legal, a women's rights platform recognized by UN Women, and this book is the ultimate guide for women of any age to understand, own, and assert their rights. So, without any further ado, we are pleased to bring to you Mansi's new book, Legally Yours, published by HarperCollins, which is the ultimate guide for women of any age to understand, own, and assert their legal rights. Now, Mansi, personally speaking, I believe this book was a page turner from the start to the finish. It was packed with real life examples and practical advice. It broke down very complicated legal provisions for the layman to understand in a very straightforward and simple language. And I also found that it provided a lot of actionable steps and remedies that one can imbibe in everyday life, and to solve legal problems like trolling, cyber safety, doxing, deep fakes, and even mistreatment by one's in-laws, amongst a host of very relevant subjects. So what prompted you to write this book, Mansi?
Hi Khadija, and firstly, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you found the book useful and that you found it very relatable, along with actionable points. That was exactly the motive behind writing this book. Because as the founder of Pink Legal and having worked with a lot of women over the past 5 years and understanding their issues, I realized that there is a vacuum in India where there is no comprehensive source for women to really understand their legal rights. It's either random online articles which are not very reliable, or very complex, legal statutes and which are full of jargon, or legal textbooks. So there is nothing in between which serves as, a handbook of sorts for women to just refer to whenever they want at their own comfort, to just understand their rights, even if they are not in a situation which requires any legal intervention, but to be aware, because if ever such a situation were to arise, they would know exactly what to do instead of panicking and instead of just running about, right? So it's kind of like a health insurance, which is what I also keep mentioning in the book, that think of it like an insurance. Hopefully you should never need it, but should the situation ever arise, you should be well prepared.
Yeah, I think that you've very aptly put it, Mansi. And the book also talks about your platform, Pink Legal. So could you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. Pink Legal is basically India's first digital platform which educates women about their legal rights. Again, in very simple language, it is the first source which, it's like a Wikipedia for women, basically, for understanding their rights in every single, sphere, every single subject, right from sexual harassment to workplace rights to domestic abuse, marriage and divorce, alimony, all of these subject areas, which are also covered in Legally Yours, the book. So it helps women understand these rights, creates awareness, along with also providing supplementary services like helping to connect them with a lawyer in case they need to fight a case. Or, we also run a helpline for women for free legal and mental health counseling called Nyairi, where women can reach out and understand what their rights are and even seek mental health support to help them process any kind of issue or trauma that they're facing. So this is what Pink Legal does, creating awareness and providing legal services completely free of cost.
I think it's fascinating work that you guys are doing at Pink Legal. And I also read in one of the chapters that how a majority of complaints received at Pink Legal were DV complaints or domestic violent complaints, as opposed to sexual harassment like we would have originally thought. but I also really appreciated the Bollywood references that you put into this movie, like the Taapsee Pannu starrer Thappar, or Bulbul Johari from Made in Heaven season 2. And now my question is that why do you think that these domestic violent complaints are on the rise in society, and how can we deal with them going forward?
I think the complaints are on a rise because more and more people are now coming forward and at least talking about it. Domestic violence may or may not have increased. It may have always been, it was always there in our society, but because of more awareness, now women are, understanding that, okay, what is happening with me is some kind of domestic abuse, whether it's physical or mental or financial, sexual, whatever kind of abuse, and they're speaking up about it, and they know where to go, how to approach an authority, how to file a complaint. So that's the reason for an increase in complaint, as per what I think. And what can we do about it? Firstly, awareness. I think awareness is the starting point of everything, because if you don't know what domestic abuse is, or many women think still today, women think that domestic abuse is just physical beating, or some kind of very aggressive form of physical abuse, but they don't know that it's also mental abuse, it's also financial abuse, also sexual abuse. So awareness about this, and secondly, even being emotionally and financially independent to an extent where once you recognize this is happening to you, you are in a place where you can stand up and say that I'm not going to tolerate this and I'm going to do something about it. And I think being in that place for women is very important, because most women are, financially not independent, or they don't have another support system to go to outside of their matrimonial home, and hence they're not able to take this action even if they become aware. So these two factors are very important in taking action.
Yes. Now, I also think it's very fascinating how you've pivoted from the legal profession to writing, having done it myself. So, tell me all about your journey from law to becoming a writer.
So I'm still a lawyer. I still have my corporate law practice and think legal, but along with that, I've also now explored writing as another avenue of something that I like to do. And I've always loved writing. I used to have a personal blog earlier where I used to express my thoughts. It was like a journal, and even with Pink Legal, I used to write articles, etc. So that's something which I always enjoyed. But writing Legally Yours was quite a it was a very challenging as well as rewarding journey, because putting together so much legal information in a very palatable manner is not easy, because you have to score through hundreds of laws, understand what their current situation or their current interpretation is, what are the latest judgments, what is the actual position of law irrespective of what is written on paper. So first is getting together all that information, and second is processing that information and putting it out there in a way that every woman who reads this book finds it very friendly and very relatable, with maybe some humor added in here and there to make sure that the book doesn't feel too heavy. So all of that was a conscious effort. So I've spent a lot of I've burnt the midnight oil, a lot of weekends, a lot of all nighters, because I was writing this book along with my higher studies when I was in Oxford, or once I came back, along with my legal work. So it was a challenging but very rewarding journey, because now that the book is out, I feel really good about it.
Yeah, I think the book can serve as a best friend for so many people in the younger generation who are not just aware, who are not just ignorant of their rights, but are also desperately looking for the right answers. So I think you've burned the midnight oil for a really good cause, and it will pay off for sure. Now, coming to my next question, which is very closely related to what I said, what is the advice that you would give to the younger generation based on your book?
Number one is start thinking for yourself and believing in yourself, that no matter what circumstances you come from, and irrespective of your gender, it doesn't make you any lesser, and nothing is impossible. So, start dreaming big for yourself, because only then you will strive to become financially and emotionally independent and reach a place in life where you're living life on your own terms. And you go through everything in life, whether it's relationships, marriage, family, friendships, whatever it is, but never in a place where you are helpless, but always being in a place where you can help yourself and you can stand up for yourself. So always believe in yourself and strive to live life on your own terms.
I think that's wonderful advice, something that the present generation could certainly learn from. Now, coming to the next question, what are some real life situations that you have seen or personally witnessed where this legal advice can come in handy, or it came in handy for you in the past?
You mean like other people's situations where legal advice would have come in handy, right? Like,
Yeah, or any situation that, any personal anecdote that you'd like to share where, it was because of your legal rights that you were able to tackle that situation.
okay. So one anecdote is, I've mentioned it in the book also, as the reason why I started paying legal as well was when I faced a personal incident, back when I was, I think back in 2017 or 16. So my car had a small accident with another car, and this was in my city when I was driving home from work. It was around 10 p.m. in the night, and two boys came out of that car and they started behaving in a very abusive manner. They started banging on my car and trying to open the door. They even broke my side view mirrors, and nobody around came to intervene. And I was very scared for my safety, and at the same time I was obviously enraged at the audacity of these two boys to behave like this in a very central metropolitan city area, right? But being a lawyer, I know that evidence is key. So I quickly took out my phone and took a picture of their car's number plate. And this picture is what helped me take every single action that I could take in the future. So the next day, I filed a police complaint along with the picture of the number plate. And although it was very intimidating for me to step into a police station, I was comforted by the fact that I know my legal rights and I know that the police will take me seriously because I'm aware of my rights. So I walked in there, I filed a complaint, and then I did get a solution. I did get a resolution. They were called to the police station, etc. So I feel that this particular incident, in fact, this incident helped me realize how intimidating it can be for any other woman. In my situation, if she doesn't know her rights, she would have probably let it go, and then this cycle would have continued where these boys would have thought it's okay to be abusive towards women and there are no consequences. So this is a situation where my legal knowledge and awareness helped me, and I hope that the same thing happens for every woman in the country, where she's aware of her rights so that she doesn't have to suffer in silence or take any kind of nonsense, and she can stand up for herself.
I think that's the first step towards fixing a lot of these issues that we face with, from domestic violence to sexual harassment. For instance, I was reading in one of the chapters about how a lot of employers try to, go around giving maternity leave to women as well. I found that eye-opening. And I think a lot of women don't even realize these kind of things. So yeah, so the book draws upon several cases and illustrations to break down these really complex laws. In your opinion, Mansi, what are some big landmark cases that you feel significantly paved the way forward for women's rights in the country?
So number one is the Vishakha case, which was the main case which created the POSH Act that we have today. So the Supreme Court laid down the guidelines that are incorporated and converted into a law today. And this was the first time that women ever got rights against sexual harassment at the workplace. Because just imagine, before that there were no rights. I mean, there was nothing, to protect them against sexual harassment, which is very, very commonplace at the workplace. And by workplace, I don't just mean the organized sector or corporate sectors, but even the unorganized spaces or smaller family-run businesses and those kind of environments. So that is a very key judgment. Another judgment, which is, not covered in the book because it doesn't touch upon that subject, but the Sabrimala temple judgment, where the Supreme Court permitted women to enter into the Sanctum Sanctorum. And I was also there in the Supreme Court and witnessing, and I was a part of assisting in that judgment. So it's also very, it feels like a very personal win for women. So that was a judgment which really set a precedent where women cannot be shut out from spaces which they deserve access to. And a third judgment would be the recent judgment given by the Supreme Court, which says that even childcare leave is a woman's constitutional right and she cannot be denied that. So we do have maternity leave, but in certain situations, childcare leave, because once a woman gives birth, she also is the primary caregiver, at least for a certain while. And denying women that leave essentially means that you do not respect them as equal beings and you are denying them opportunities at the workplace. So I feel like that is also a very important judgment for women.
Yes. And just to add to that, I think the chapter on equal pay for equal work and the wage gap is also an eye opener for so many of us. I think it was brilliantly written. And yeah, and another chapter that I really appreciated was a chapter on sexual harassment. It was when the book breaks down how sexual harassment can occur even outside of your workplace, even at an event or a remote site that you have gone to for the purpose of your work. Now, it also specifies that sexual harassment need not just be physical in nature. Given this, what are some of the ways in which women can deal with this situation?
So some of the ways, number one is, if possible, collect evidence. So whatever kind of evidence, and I've also mentioned this in the book, I've given a few tips on, how you can document things, like write it down, take a picture, take a video, always keep your safety as the first priority when doing any of this. Look for ID cards, look for if there's a company logo. I mean, anything, think like a detective basically, and think of anything that will help you tie the dots if you have to go ahead and file a complaint against this person. Secondly, if there is no evidence, I've also given tips on, how can you create that record by, say, for example, it's in a private room. It's a private conversation that happened where you were harassed, either verbally, physically, however. Right? So you can always go back to the person, send an email and say that, so and so, whatever happened, I do not appreciate it. It would amount to sexual harassment or something on those lines. And then that person is going to reply. And then that is how you kind of create that, even if it's not evidence of direct admission, but at least there's a trail, right? So tomorrow when you go file a complaint, it's not coming out of the blue, but it shows that, yes, you have been consistently talking about this happening. So, these are a few things that women can keep in mind. Always think about like how you're going to do it, and also act as swiftly as you can. In certain situations, it's difficult to act quickly because of the trauma or because of so many things like, okay, are you going to get victimized again, secondary victimization where, people point out fingers at you or they blame you as a victim. And there are these things that women have to process. But do try to file a complaint as soon as possible so that evidence is not lost. And third is gather support, whether it's your friends, your family, your co-workers, whoever it is, even if it is one other person. Always share it and find an ally. You don't have to fight this alone because it's already difficult to stand up against it. So do have like that one person, whoever it is, who can just comfort you morally.
Yeah. So I think that's extremely practical and useful advice, Mansi. And this is exactly a case in point of what the book also offered for many, many situations as opposed to just sexual harassment. Now, I also want to talk to you about how the book addresses potential police inaction, which is unfortunately a reality in India. So, in a series of chapters, the book talks about how people who might find themselves to be victims of cyber crimes, and they may approach the police, but their complaints may not always be acted upon by the police. And since this is a recurring theme throughout the book, I wanted to know from you that what are some of the other ways in which Indian women can tackle issues like stalking, deep fakes, and even online trolling in the face of such inaction.
So sometimes, it's not always about getting redressal from the police. What you need is a solution, right? Where this particular, firstly, you want to stop that harassment. And secondly, you want to send out a message to the harasser that there will be consequences. So, it starts off with as simple as clicking screenshots of everything because you want to collect that evidence, of course. Then blocking that person, restricting them. There are social media apps like Instagram have certain built-in features where you can completely cut that person out of your life when it comes to online stalking or harassment or trolling. So start off with that. Second is you can also, there are two types of police stations, right? The regular police station and the cybercrime police station. And more often than not, you may get a response from the cyber cell because they are trained to deal with these kind of situations. And I have heard of positive, cases in this scenario as well. So don't rule out that option. Do exercise that option and do go file that complaint because they can be helpful. And thirdly, I've also spoken about, social media being a double-edged sword where you can name and shame that person because sometimes that can be the biggest consequence or humiliation that the harasser will face because a lot of them operate with the belief that they will never be caught and they can continue doing this under the radar. So that can also work, but this comes with a caveat that that can also sometimes work against you because then they can use that against you, say claiming defamation or further fueling that situation. So take that step, but take it carefully when you know that okay, you are going to be safe and it's not going to affect your safety. So these are a few situations. These are a few other ways to handle it. And don't always go with the idea that the police have to arrest this person or put them in jail. That's not the consequence that we should always look for. It is always about sending out that message, and the consequences can be calling them to the police station, which itself is a very big threat, right? So that is also sometimes a good enough redressal.
So yeah, that's what I really like about this book. It's the fact that rather than looking at the solutions in a textbook fashion, we are thinking out of the box. We are addressing the systemic realities we have to live with and going forward with that. This is why I really appreciated the book. So I think this book is fantastic. It's packed with real life examples. It addresses police inaction. It addresses a range of topics from rights of couples in a live-in relationship to people who are victims of domestic violence, even outside of marriages. So go grab your copy of Legally Yours by Manasi Chaudhari by HarperCollins now. So thank you so much for speaking with us, Mansi, and best of luck for the book. And we can't recommend it enough.
Thank you so much, Khadija. And I really enjoyed having this chat with you. And I'm glad to know that you read the book and liked it. So, yeah, thank you.